Every day we live our lives under the illusion that Earth is familiar, safe and predictable. The ground we walk on feels solid, the oceans stretch endlessly but seem calm from the shore, and the skies overhead appear vast yet harmless. But the truth is, this planet is anything but ordinary. Hidden beneath its surface, written in its rocks, and whispered in its storms, are secrets that challenge everything we think we know. From the moment of its birth, Earth has been a world shaped by violence, chaos and cataclysm, yet somehow balanced so delicately that life not only survived but thrived. And while we enjoy the comforts of modern civilization, the story of Earth is filled with moments that remind us just how fragile that balance really is. Scientists uncover fragments of this story piece by piece, but the more we learn, the stranger it becomes. Earth's core moves in ways that even experts can't fully explain. The magnetic field that shields us is weakening in places for reasons no one understands, and evidence suggests that civilizations may have risen and fallen long before the history books admit. The oceans covering most of the planet remain largely unexplored, holding secrets darker than outer space, and the skies, far from empty, are filled with phenomena that continue to defy explanation, from mysterious lights tracked on radar to thunderous sounds no one can trace. But what if these mysteries aren't just random? What if the Earth itself is part of a larger puzzle? A story too vast for us to grasp all at once. For every answer science provides, a dozen more questions seem to appear, and it's those questions, the ones that unsettle us, that push us to wonder, that hold the key to understanding the true nature of our world. So the real question is, how much of Earth's story have we actually uncovered, and how much remains deliberately hidden in silence? To understand why Earth is such a strange and unpredictable world, you have to go back to the very beginning, to a time when this planet wasn't even a planet yet. The story of Earth's birth isn't a calm one. It isn't the image of a peaceful world forming slowly under gentle starlight. It's a story of fire, destruction, and cosmic chaos. About 4.5 billion years ago, the young solar system was a violent place. The sun had just ignited, and around it swirled a disk of dust, gas and rock. Out of this chaos, chunks of material collided and stuck together, gradually forming larger and larger bodies called planetesimals. They weren't delicate worlds in the making. They were more like weapons, crashing into each other with unimaginable force, sometimes shattering apart, other times fusing together. Earth itself was forged in this brutal environment, slowly gaining mass as it swept up smaller objects in its path. But its real transformation came from an impact so enormous that it still echoes through time. According to the leading theory, a Mars-sized body named Theia smashed into the early Earth. This was no ordinary collision. It was an explosion of unimaginable violence. Imagine two worlds colliding at tremendous speed, their surfaces melting and vaporizing, oceans of magma splashing into space. The force of this impact nearly destroyed Earth, but instead it reshaped it forever. Debris thrown into orbit eventually came together to form the Moon, our constant companion. Even today, the fingerprints of that impact are written in the chemistry of lunar rocks, which match Earth's mantle far too closely for coincidence. Without Theia's collision, there might never have been a moon, and without the moon, Earth itself might never have stabilized enough for life to develop. But even after the moon was born, Earth was hardly recognizable. The surface wasn't covered in continents and oceans as we know them today. It was a hellish sea of molten rock. Volcanoes erupted endlessly, gases choked the atmosphere, and asteroid bombardments rained destruction from space. This was the Hadean Eon, a name taken from the word Hades, for good reason. Life could not exist here. The surface temperatures were extreme, and toxic gases filled the air, and yet this period of violence wasn't pointless. Every asteroid and comet that slammed into Earth carried materials, metals, minerals, and even water that became the foundations of the planet we know. What looked like pure destruction was, in reality, creation in disguise. Gradually, Earth cooled enough for its crust to form. Oceans condensed out of the vapor, covering much of the surface. But even then, the planet was anything but safe. Gigantic impacts still shook the ground, boiling away oceans in an instant. then letting them rain down again. Imagine the seas you know vanishing into steam with one collision, only to return as storm after storm covered the scorched surface. These cycles of destruction and renewal continued for hundreds of millions of years. It's almost as if Earth was being tested, shaped, hammered into something capable of supporting life. The creation of the Moon also set into motion one of Earth's most crucial features: stability. Without the gravitational pull of the Moon, Earth's tilt might have wobbled chaotically, creating wild swings in climate that could have prevented life from ever taking hold. Instead, the Moon acted like an anchor, stabilizing Earth's rotation and tides. Those tides would become a nursery for early life, stirring the oceans, mixing nutrients and setting the stage for biology to take its first breath. The Moon wasn't just an accident of violence, it was a lifeline. Still, the early Earth remained a dangerous experiment. The surface boiled with volcanic activity. The sky was thick with carbon dioxide and methane. And ultraviolet radiation from the sun scorched the ground, unblocked by an ozone layer that had not yet formed. But even in this hellish world, seeds of life may have been sown. Hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the oceans spewed chemicals into the water, creating natural laboratories where molecules could combine into something more complex. Lightning storms and ultraviolet radiation may have powered reactions in shallow seas, building the building blocks of DNA and proteins. Out of violence and chaos, something remarkable began to stir: life itself. And yet the exact story of how Earth went from fire to life remains unsolved. Some scientists believe life originated here in Earth's early oceans. Others suggest it may have arrived from elsewhere, carried by meteorites, seeded with organic molecules. A theory known as panspermia. If true, it would mean the origins of life on Earth are linked to an even greater cosmic story, one that stretches beyond this planet. Either way, the lesson is the same. Earth's violent birth wasn't the end of its story, it was only the beginning. The scars of that birth are still visible today. The tilted axis that gives us seasons, the composition of the Moon, even the distribution of elements in Earth's crust, all point back to that ancient impact. Without it, Earth would be unrecognizable. Some even suggest that if Theia had struck at a slightly different angle, or with slightly different speed, Earth might not exist at all. Perhaps it would have been shattered into debris. Perhaps it would have remained a barren rock, lifeless and unstable. The existence of our world, and of us, may rest on the razor's edge of that one cosmic collision. And yet, the mystery deepens. What happened to Theia? Some fragments may still be buried within Earth, locked deep in the mantle where they shape the flow of heat and magma. Others may have been lost to space forever. Some theories even suggest the strange, dense blobs detected deep within Earth could be remnants of that ancient world, still hidden beneath our feet. If true, it means we are not standing on just one planet, but two fused together, a hybrid forged in fire. What makes this story so compelling isn't just the violence, it's the improbability. Out of billions of random collisions in the young solar system, this one impact set the stage for everything to come. It created the Moon, stabilized Earth's tilt, delivered essential materials, and prepared the way for oceans, atmosphere, and life. What looked like destruction was in fact creation. It is as if Earth's very existence required not just chaos, but the right kind of chaos. And that leaves us with a question that lingers like a shadow. Was it all just chance? Or was there something more at play, an underlying pattern, a hidden order guiding the chaos? Science points to physics and probability, but the sheer unlikelihood of everything aligning so perfectly makes some wonder whether Earth's birth was truly random. Because without that violent collision, without that fiery crucible, there would be no Moon, no oceans, no life, and no humanity to even ask these questions. If Earth's birth was violent, its early history was no less brutal. From the very beginning, life on this planet has existed on the edge of survival, challenged again and again by catastrophes so massive that they nearly wiped everything out. The strange part is, these disasters didn't just destroy, they reshaped the world, forcing it to evolve, clearing the way for something new. In fact, without these near-apocalyptic events, the story of life on Earth, including us, might never have been written. One of the earliest catastrophes wasn't even about destruction in the physical sense, but about a poison filling the air, Billions of years ago, the atmosphere was completely different from what we breathe today. Instead of oxygen, it was dominated by methane, carbon dioxide and nitrogen, deadly to the kind of life that now thrives. But deep in the oceans, tiny organisms began to perform photosynthesis, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. At first, this invisible change went unnoticed, but over millions of years, oxygen levels rose until they reached a tipping point. Suddenly, what had been a harmless gas for its creators became a global toxin for everything else. This event is known as the Great Oxidation Event, and it triggered a planetary crisis. Ancient microbes that had dominated the world were suffocated, their ecosystems collapsing under this new poisonous atmosphere. Entire species vanished, erased by the very chemical that would later allow complex life to exist. For them, oxygen was the end. For us, it was the beginning. But Earth's ability to reset didn't stop there. As oxygen began to build, strange things happened to the climate. Methane, a powerful greenhouse gas, was stripped from the air, and without it, the planet lost much of its ability to trap heat. The result, Earth froze. Not just a seasonal freeze or a glacial period, but an event so severe it earned the name Snowball Earth. Ice sheets extended from the poles toward the equator, covering nearly the entire planet. Oceans froze over, reflecting sunlight back into space, making the world even colder. Imagine a planet entirely white, seas locked beneath kilometers of ice, continents buried, and temperatures plunging to levels where survival seemed impossible. For life, it was another near-death experience. Microbes huddled near volcanic vents, or found refuge in small liquid pockets beneath the ice. But the vast majority of the world became a frozen tomb. And yet, this too was a strange gift in disguise. Volcanic eruptions continued to pump carbon dioxide into the air, but with so much ice covering the surface, there was little weathering to remove it. Slowly over millions of years, greenhouse gases built up until they reached a breaking point. When the ice finally melted, it did so catastrophically, triggering massive floods and unleashing nutrients into the oceans. Life rebounded with a vengeance, and the stage was set for one of the greatest evolutionary leaps in history. Out of near annihilation came complexity. Multicellular organisms began to rise, and evolution gained momentum. But perhaps no catastrophe was as devastating as the Permian-Triassic extinction, often called the Great Dying. About 20-52 million years ago, Earth went through an event so severe it almost ended the story of life altogether. A series of massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia released enormous amounts of carbon dioxide, methane and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. The skies darkened with ash, oceans turned acidic, and global temperatures soared. Ecosystems collapsed under the combined weight of toxic gases, runaway warming, and suffocating seas. It wasn't just one type of life that suffered. Almost everything did. In fact, estimates suggest that around 90 to 95% of all species were wiped out. Entire families of creatures that had thrived for hundreds of millions of years vanished forever. It was the closest life ever came to a complete reset. Imagine standing on Earth during that time. Forests withered, coral reefs dissolved, rivers dried, and the oceans themselves became stagnant, releasing deadly hydrogen sulfide gas that poisoned the air. Even the insects, which had survived countless challenges before, suffered massive losses. The world went silent. For a moment in time, it looked as though life itself had failed. But somehow, against all odds, a small fraction of species endured. These survivors would go on to repopulate the planet, setting the stage for the rise of the dinosaurs, and much later mammals like us. The Great Dying was not the end. It was a brutal reset button. The story repeated itself again, with the event most people know best, the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. A rock from space, more than 10 kilometers wide, slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact unleashed energy equal to billions of nuclear bombs, vaporizing everything nearby and sending shockwaves around the globe. Fires raged, tsunamis roared, and a cloud of dust and debris blotted out the sun for months, maybe years. Photosynthesis stopped, plants withered, and the food chain collapsed. The mighty dinosaurs, rulers of the planet for over 150 million years, were undone not by predators, but by the sky falling. And yet, while their reign ended, the mammals hiding in the shadows suddenly had space to thrive. From those survivors would come primates, and from primates, eventually us. These catastrophic events weren't just random disasters, they were turning points. They show us that Earth is not a stable, gentle home, but a volatile system that destroys and creates in equal measure. Without the Great Oxidation, there would be no oxygen to breathe. Without Snowball Earth, there might never have been the evolutionary leap to complex life. Without the Great Dying, dinosaurs might never have emerged. And without the asteroid, they might still dominate today, leaving no room for humans at all. It's almost unsettling to realize that our existence depends on catastrophe. Every near erasure of life cleared the way for something new, something more advanced, something more unexpected. And perhaps that's the most chilling thought of all. Because if Earth's history is written in cycles of destruction and renewal, then what does that say about the future? Are we living in one of those rare, calm periods between catastrophes? Are we simply waiting for the next great reset, whether it comes from beneath the Earth in the form of a supervolcano, from above in the shape of an asteroid, or from our own hands in the form of environmental collapse? The past makes one thing clear. Life on Earth is resilient, but never untouchable. Survival is not guaranteed. The catastrophes that nearly erased life didn't just shape the past. They hint at what may still come. And that uncertainty is what makes Earth's story so haunting. We live on a planet that thrives on chaos, a world where destruction is never truly the end, but a strange beginning. The question is, when the next catastrophe comes, will humanity adapt and endure like the species before us, or will we finally be the ones swept away, remembered only as a brief chapter in Earth's long and violent story? Beneath the continents we walk on, beneath the oceans that cover most of the planet, there lies a world few people truly think about: Earth's core. We often imagine Earth as a simple sphere of rock solid from surface to center, but the reality is far stranger. The core is not just a hidden structure, it is the beating heart of the planet, a realm of extremes so alien that it might as well belong to another world. And yet this hidden world is the reason we exist at all. It shapes our climate, protects us from cosmic radiation, and influences the very survival of Earth. Without it, Earth would be a dead, barren rock. The core is made of two parts: the outer core, a swirling sea of molten iron and nickel, and the inner core, a solid sphere of metal roughly the size of the moon. Temperatures here reach more than 5,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun, while pressures are so extreme that atoms are crushed into configurations we can barely replicate in laboratories. We've never seen the core directly. No human, no machine, not even our deepest drills have come close to reaching it. Everything we know comes from indirect evidence, like seismic waves that ripple through Earth after earthquake. These waves bend, slow down, or speed up depending on what material they pass through. And by studying them, scientists have built a picture of what lies below. But this picture is still filled with mysteries, and the deeper we look, the stranger it becomes. One of the most important roles of the core is generating Earth's magnetic field. The movement of molten iron in the outer core acts like a giant dynamo, creating a magnetic shield that surrounds the planet. Without it, Earth would be blasted by solar radiation, our atmosphere would strip away, and life might never have flourished. Mars, for example, once had a magnetic field but lost it, and the result was devastating. Its atmosphere was ripped into space, leaving behind the barren, frozen desert we see today. In a sense, Earth's core is the silent guardian of life, an invisible shield that protects us every moment of every day. But here's where the story turns unsettling. Scientists have discovered that the core is not stable. It shifts, slows, and even changes direction. Some studies suggest the inner core may spin at a slightly different speed than the rest of the planet, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, and occasionally stopping altogether before reversing direction. What could cause such strange behavior, and what does it mean for life at the surface? If the core powers the magnetic field, then shifts in its rotation might explain the irregularities we see above, like weakening zones in the field, or sudden changes in polarity. The truth is, we don't fully understand how the core works, and that ignorance is dangerous. The magnetic field itself has a history of bizarre behavior. Over millions of years, the poles have flipped multiple times, with north becoming south and vice versa. These reversals are recorded in ancient rocks, like geological fingerprints of a planet in flux. While the last reversal happened around 720,000 years ago, the field has been weakening for centuries, especially in a region called the South Atlantic Anomaly. Here, satellites are bombarded with radiation as the shield thins, a warning sign that something beneath us is shifting. If the field continues to weaken, could we be on the verge of another reversal? And if so, how would humanity cope with a world where navigation fails, satellites burn out, and radiation levels spike? The core, invisible and untouchable, might one day dictate our fate in ways we are not prepared for. There are deeper mysteries still. In recent years, seismic data has revealed strange blobs at the boundary between the mantle and the core, massive structures the size of continents, denser than the rock around them. No one knows what they are. Some scientists believe they are remnants of Theia, the planet that collided with Earth billions of years ago. Its remains still buried inside us. Others think they are accumulations of ancient oceanic crust that sank into the deep. Whatever they are, these blobs influence how heat moves from the core into the mantle, shaping volcanic hotspots, and perhaps even controlling where supervolcanoes erupt. Imagine that, the hidden bones of another world beneath our feet, quietly directing Earth's evolution from the shadows. Even the inner core itself may not be as simple as we once thought. Evidence suggests it may contain different layers, with varying crystal structures of iron aligned in strange patterns. Some researchers believe the inner core is two-tiered, with an even smaller innermost core within it. If true, that means the very center of Earth holds secrets we've only begun to glimpse. It raises questions: how did this structure form? Has it always been this way, or is it still evolving? Could the growth of the inner core even explain why Earth still has such a strong magnetic field billions of years after its birth? And then there's the most unsettling possibility of all. What happens when the core stops working? The outer core is slowly cooling, and as it solidifies, the dynamo that powers the magnetic field will eventually die. It may take billions of years, but the end result is inevitable. Earth will lose its shield, just as Mars did, and the atmosphere will be stripped away. Long before the sun expands to consume the planet, Earth may already be lifeless. For us, that timeline feels comfortably distant, but it's a reminder of how fragile our world truly is. Life exists not because Earth is stable, but because it is precariously balanced on the chaotic forces within its heart. Speculation extends further still. Some wonder whether the core's mysteries could connect to unexplained phenomena on the surface. Could shifts in the core trigger sudden changes in climate or unexplained earthquakes? Could strange magnetic anomalies that baffle scientists be tied to hidden movements deep below? Ancient cultures often spoke of the Earth as a living being, with a fiery heart at its center. Maybe they weren't so far off. Maybe what we call the core is less a dead mass of metal and more a dynamic, evolving engine, one that beats in rhythms we can't yet predict. What makes this so unnerving is how little control we have. We can send probes to the edge of the solar system, land rovers on Mars, and peer into galaxies billions of light years away, yet we cannot directly study the very heart of our own planet. The core remains untouchable, its secrets locked away by heat and pressure far beyond our reach. We are left to guess, to piece together indirect evidence, to wonder about the world beneath our feet that dictates so much of our existence. It is humbling and a little terrifying to realize that humanity's survival depends on a region of Earth we cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot truly understand. The core is both our protector and our greatest unknown. It shields us, yet it shifts unpredictably. It sustains life, yet it hides the seeds of future catastrophe. It is the one place on Earth we will never visit, and yet its influence stretches into every part of our lives. Perhaps that is why it fascinates us so deeply, because it reminds us that no matter how advanced we become, some mysteries remain beyond reach, and maybe that's Earth's way of keeping us humble, of reminding us that we are guests on a planet far stranger than we imagine, standing above a world of fire that could at any moment decide to change the rules. Most people don't think about Earth's magnetic field at all. It's invisible, silent, and completely out of sight. Yet without it, life as we know it could never have existed. This field is the unseen shield that wraps around our planet, deflecting deadly solar winds, cosmic rays, and high-energy particles that would strip our atmosphere away and leave Earth as lifeless as Mars. Every time you see a compass needle point north, you are witnessing the pull of this ancient guardian, and yet for all its importance, Earth's magnetic field is one of the least understood and most unpredictable forces in nature. It has saved us for billions of years, but it is also unstable, chaotic, and filled with mysteries that scientists are only beginning to grasp. The field is generated deep beneath our feet, in the molten iron currents of the outer core. As that liquid metal churns, it creates a geodynamo, a planetary scale engine that powers the magnetic shield. But unlike a machine that runs smoothly and predictably, this geodynamo behaves more like a living thing. It pulses, weakens, strengthens, and sometimes reverses entirely. That's right, the magnetic north and south poles don't just wander, they flip. For reasons not fully understood, the field occasionally collapses and reforms with the poles switched. These flips are recorded in ancient rocks, their minerals frozen in alignment with the magnetic field of their time, preserving a record of every reversal. The last major flip happened about 780,000 years ago, but the field has reversed hundreds of times throughout Earth's history, sometimes staying stable for millions of years, other times flipping multiple times within a short window. During a reversal, the field weakens drastically, sometimes dropping to just 10% of its current strength. If that happened today, the consequences would be catastrophic. Satellites would be fried by solar radiation, power grids could collapse under surges, and cosmic rays would bombard the surface, increasing cancer rates and damaging DNA. Navigation systems that depend on magnetic fields would go haywire, and migratory animals, birds, whales, turtles that rely on magnetic cues could become lost. In short, life would be thrown into chaos, and the unsettling truth is, scientists believe we may already be entering the early stages of another reversal. For centuries, Earth's magnetic field has been weakening, and the poles have been drifting at alarming rates. The North Pole, for example, is racing from Canada towards Siberia at speeds never seen before. In the South Atlantic, a particularly troubling anomaly has emerged, a region where the magnetic field is dangerously weak, exposing satellites to bursts of radiation. This South Atlantic anomaly is so severe that spacecraft passing over it often experience malfunctions. Some scientists suspect it could be a sign of an impending flip, or at least a massive restructuring of the field. But reversals aren't the only mystery. Sometimes the poles don't fully flip, but instead wander unpredictably. Magnetic north is not fixed. It drifts year after year, and the rate of drift has accelerated. No one knows why. Is the core shifting in new ways? Are the strange blobs of dense material at the mantle core boundary interfering with the geodynamo? Whatever the cause, the magnetic field is not the stable, permanent shield we once believed. It is dynamic, fragile, and capable of betraying us without warning. Even more baffling are the rapid shifts known as geomagnetic excursions. Unlike full reversals, these are short-lived collapses of the field, lasting perhaps a few centuries before the poles return to their original positions. The most famous of these, the Lachamp event about 41,000 years ago, weakened the field so much that cosmic radiation flooded the atmosphere. Evidence shows that this event coincided with dramatic climate fluctuations and may even have influenced the survival of early human populations. Some researchers speculate that bursts of radiation during such events could have affected human evolution, forcing our ancestors to adapt more quickly or perish. If true, the magnetic field may not just protect life, it may have shaped the very path of human history. The auroras, the northern and southern lights, are the most visible expression of this invisible force. They appear when solar particles slam into the magnetic field and funnel toward the poles, colliding with Earth's atmosphere in curtains of light. Beautiful as they are, auroras are also a reminder of the constant war being fought above our heads, a battle between solar radiation and the field that deflects it. Without that defense, those streams of light would instead be streams of death, stripping Earth of water, atmosphere, and habitability. And yet the auroras are not fully predictable either. Strange variations in color, shape, and intensity have been recorded, sometimes far from the poles, hinting at deeper mysteries in how the magnetic field interacts with solar storms. Some theories go even further, suggesting that fluctuations in the magnetic field may influence not only technology and biology, but even human consciousness. Ancient cultures often linked the heavens with divine power, and stories of the skies opening or the world shaking may have been early interpretations of magnetic disturbances. While science has not proven any direct connection between geomagnetic storms and the human mind, correlations have been observed between solar activity and spikes in mood disorders, heart attacks, and even strange mass behavior. Could our biology be more sensitive to the magnetic shield than we realize? If so, then changes in the field could affect us in ways we barely comprehend. There is also the eerie possibility that the magnetic field's instability has played a role in mass extinctions. When the shield weakens, more radiation penetrates the atmosphere, potentially damaging DNA and accelerating mutation rates. While this can fuel evolution, it can also push species toward collapse. Some researchers have looked at the timing of field reversals and anomalies compared to extinction events and found intriguing overlaps. It raises a chilling thought. The very shield that makes life possible may occasionally falter, triggering evolutionary bottlenecks and reshaping the tree of life. Despite its importance, humanity has done little to prepare for a future where the magnetic field fails us. Unlike asteroids or volcanoes, which we can at least monitor and plan for, the magnetic field operates on scales we can't predict. We cannot stop it from reversing, and we cannot reinforce it. If the shield weakens significantly in our lifetime, our only defense will be technology, and technology is precisely what would suffer most under such conditions. The satellites we depend on for communication, navigation, weather forecasting, and global finance would be the first casualties. Power grids could fail on continental scales. Flights over the poles where radiation would spike might become impossible. The world as we know it would fracture under the invisible collapse of its guardian. And yet, the greatest mystery remains. Why does the field behave this way at all? If the core is simply a churning sea of molten metal, why should its motion reverse? Why should the poles suddenly swap places? Could there be hidden forces within the deep Earth influencing it? Or could the answer lie beyond our planet, in how solar and cosmic forces interact with Earth's interior? These questions remain unanswered, and perhaps they always will. What is certain is this: Earth's magnetic field is not a permanent shield, but a fragile and shifting one. It has failed before, and it will fail again. Whether that happens in 10,000 years or tomorrow is something no one can say. What we do know is that every moment of our lives, every breath we take, is made possible by a force we cannot see and do not fully understand. A force that, at any moment, could change the rules of survival on this planet. When we look at Earth today, dominated by technology, skyscrapers and satellites, it's easy to imagine that everything important has been discovered in the modern era. But the truth is far more unsettling. Scattered across deserts, jungles, and oceans are the remains of civilizations that seem to know more than they should have for their time. Ancient cultures left behind monuments, maps, and myths that suggest they possessed a kind of knowledge we can barely explain, let alone replicate. And while history books often downplay these mysteries as coincidences or primitive ingenuity, many of them point to a possibility that we've overlooked. Perhaps humanity's past is not as simple as we think, and perhaps lost knowledge once held the key to understanding the very planet we live on. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance. Built more than 4,000 years ago, it remains one of the most precise structures ever constructed. Its base is nearly perfectly square, aligned with true north with uncanny accuracy. Some stones weigh more than 70 tons, and yet they were somehow moved and stacked without cranes, trucks, or advanced machinery. To this day, engineers debate how such a feat was possible. Mainstream explanations talk of ramps, ropes, and sheer manpower, but those theories remain speculative. What's stranger is that the pyramid's proportions encode mathematical constants such as pi and phi, and even align with astronomical phenomena. Was it simply a tomb, as textbooks claim? Or was it something more, perhaps an observatory, a power generator, or even a kind of encoded message left for the future? The Mayans, too, seemed to possess inexplicable knowledge. Their calendars tracked celestial cycles with astonishing precision, even predicting solar eclipses centuries in advance. How could a culture without telescopes or modern instruments map the heavens so accurately? Some argue it was simply careful observation passed down over generations. Others suspect they tapped into a deeper understanding of Earth's rhythms, cycles, and magnetic alignments, knowledge that may have been lost when their civilization mysteriously declined. And the Mayans weren't alone. The ancient Sumerians described the planets of the solar system in texts thousands of years old, listing not only the visible ones but also Uranus and Neptune, which cannot be seen with the naked eye. How could they have known? One of the most perplexing artifacts is the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. It depicts parts of South America, Africa, and Antarctica with shocking accuracy. The strangest part: Antarctica appears ice-free on this map, a condition that hasn't existed for thousands of years. Did the admirals simply copy from even older charts, passed down from a forgotten civilization? If so, that suggests someone in the distant past had knowledge of global geography that modern humans supposedly only gained in the last few centuries. And then there are the megalithic sites that dot the earth: Stonehenge in England, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Puma Punku in Bolivia. Each site challenges conventional timeline. Göbekli Tepe, for instance, is over 11,000 years old, older than farming itself, and yet it features massive stone pillars arranged with astronomical precision. This means hunter-gatherers, supposedly primitive and nomadic, somehow built a complex ceremonial site before agriculture even took root. It forces us to ask, were these people really just simple foragers, or were they inheriting knowledge from an even older, forgotten culture? What's even more fascinating is how many ancient myths echo similar themes. Civilizations, separated by oceans and continents, all told stories of floods, sky gods, and lost worlds. The Greeks spoke of Atlantis, a powerful civilization destroyed by the gods. The Mesopotamians wrote of great floods in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Native American tribes recounted tales of star people and visitors from the sky. Why do these myths align so closely, despite being separated by geography and time? Could they all be fragments of a forgotten truth, a memory of a global event, or even contact with advanced beings? Adding to the intrigue, some artifacts don't fit into any timeline. The Antikythera mechanism, found in a shipwreck near Greece, is a complex device built over 2,000 years ago, capable of predicting eclipses and tracking planetary movements with a system of bronze gears. Experts often call it the world's first computer. But how did ancient engineers craft such precision gearwork when, according to history, technology that advanced shouldn't have existed until the 40s? Was it a one-off miracle of craftsmanship, or evidence that advanced knowledge once existed and was lost? Even more bizarre are the so-called out-of-place artifacts, objects that appear to be far older than they should be. There are reports of ancient batteries found in Mesopotamia, spheres with perfectly balanced grooves from South Africa, dated at billions of years old, and even cave paintings that seem to depict flying objects. While many of these claims are debated or dismissed by mainstream science, they feed into a larger narrative that humanity's past may hold more secrets than we dare admit. But here's where the story becomes even more mysterious. Many ancient cultures seemed obsessed with the sky. From the pyramids of Egypt to the temples of Mesoamerica, structures were aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and star constellations. It's almost as if these civilizations were trying to send us a message. Look to the heavens, for there you will find the truth. But what truth were they pointing to? Was it a warning about cosmic cycles, like the periodic destruction caused by comets or solar storms? Or were they hinting at an origin story that connects humanity not just to Earth, but to the stars themselves? Even the question of how knowledge was transmitted across time remains a puzzle. How did people in Egypt and South America, separated by oceans, build pyramids with strikingly similar designs? How did myths about floods, giants, and fire from the sky emerge in so many different places? Did early humans share a global culture before recorded history? Or did multiple civilizations inventively rediscover the same truths, guided by forces we still don't understand? Modern researchers often struggle with these questions because they don't fit neatly into the accepted timeline of history. But ignoring the anomalies doesn't make them disappear. Every stone monument, every strange artifact, every ancient myth is like a piece of a puzzle we've barely begun to assemble. What if the world we know today is built on the ruins of a forgotten age? What if our ancestors once understood secrets about Earth's magnetic field, the stars, or even energy itself? Knowledge that could transform our civilization if we only rediscovered it. And perhaps the most haunting question of all, could it happen again? Civilizations rise and fall. Rome fell. The Mayans vanished. Ancient Egypt collapsed into ruin. What if our own world, with all its satellites and skyscrapers, is just another chapter in a long cycle of rise and fall? If so, then what secrets might we be leaving behind for the next civilization to uncover? Will they too look at our ruins and wonder how we built what we did, and why we vanished? The deeper we dig, the clearer it becomes. The Earth is not just a planet of soil and water. It is a library filled with buried chapters of human history that refuse to be fully erased. Each ruin, each artifact, each myth is a whisper from the past, urging us to pay attention. And maybe, just maybe, the real story of Earth is not about what we know, but about what we've forgotten. If there is one truth humanity cannot escape, it's that Earth has never been stable for long. Climate has swung like a pendulum across the ages, ice gripping continents in one era, searing heat, turning fertile plains into deserts in another. For us, living within a relatively calm window of time, it's tempting to believe that the world is steady, that seasons will always come and go in familiar rhythms. But history, both written and buried in the rocks, tells a far harsher story. Earth's climate has changed drastically and suddenly, reshaping civilizations, rewriting coastlines, and even wiping out entire species. What's most unsettling is that ancient warnings about these upheavals exist, etched in stone, passed down in myth, and embedded in cultural memory, warnings we've often chosen to ignore. Take the Ice Ages. Just 20,000 years ago, massive glaciers covered much of North America and Europe. Sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, exposing land bridges where people and animals roamed freely. Then, in what feels like the blink of an eye in geological terms, the ice retreated, oceans surged upward, swallowing coastlines and reshaping continents. Myths from cultures around the world describe great floods, stories dismissed as allegories or exaggerations. Yet modern science confirms that enormous floods did occur as the ice melted, sometimes with catastrophic speed. Entire landscapes were drowned, and countless human settlements vanished beneath the waves. Is it possible that the flood legends from Noah's Ark to the Epic of Gilgamesh to tales among Native Americans are memories of that world-ending deluge? But the floods were only part of the chaos. Evidence shows sudden climate shifts that defy easy explanation. Around 12,800 years ago, Earth was abruptly plunged into a mini ice age known as the Younger Dryas. Temperatures dropped sharply, glaciers advanced again, and megafauna like mammoths and saber-toothed cats disappeared. Some researchers believe this event was triggered by a comet impact. Others suggest massive freshwater floods disrupted ocean currents. Whatever the cause, the effect was devastating. Human populations collapsed in some regions, and cultures that had just begun farming were forced back into survival mode. For ancient people, this must have felt like the wrath of the gods, a sudden, inexplicable punishment from the heaven. And here's where the mystery deepens. Ancient structures around the world may encode knowledge of these cataclysms. Sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, older than Stonehenge by millennia, contain carvings that some researchers interpret as records of a comet strike. The Sphinx in Egypt, according to controversial theories, shows water erosion inconsistent with the desert climate of its supposed age, hinting it may be far older, built in a time of torrential rains. Even the Mayan calendar, often sensationalized for its 2012 prediction, may have been less about apocalypse and more about cycles of destruction and renewal tied to cosmic or climatic forces. Were these civilizations warning us about the repeating chaos of Earth's climate? It isn't just ancient history. Climate chaos has toppled civilizations in the last few thousand years as well. Around 4,200 years ago, a massive drought struck Mesopotamia, collapsing the Akkadian Empire, one of the first great states in human history. In Egypt, the Old Kingdom faltered around the same time, coinciding with famine and political upheaval. Centuries later, the collapse of the Mayan civilization has also been linked to prolonged droughts that turned once thriving cities into ghost towns. Again and again, climate has been the silent executioner of empires, striking without mercy and leaving ruins as its only testimony. And yet, despite this clear pattern, humanity has a habit of forgetting. Each generation believes the world it knows will last forever, even as signs of change gather like storm clouds on the horizon. Today, as ice sheets melt, seas rise, and temperatures climb, we are repeating the same mistake. We treat warnings from scientists as noise, just as past peoples likely ignored omens until famine and flood made them undeniable. What's most disturbing is that the pace of change we're witnessing now is eerily similar to the abrupt shifts of the past. Could we be on the cusp of another climate catastrophe, one that future generations will only remember as myth? But myths aren't just stories of destruction. They are often paired with strange knowledge, as if ancient cultures knew more than we give them credit for. Many indigenous traditions speak of cycles of fire and water, destruction and rebirth, the Hopi talk about worlds that rose and fell, each destroyed when humanity strayed from balance. Hindu texts describe yugas, vast ages of creation and destruction. The Aztecs believed the world had ended multiple times, each era wiped away by floods, flames, or earthquakes. These aren't random tales, they are patterns, reminders that catastrophe is not the exception, but the rule. Could it be that our ancestors, scarred by past cataclysms, tried to preserve a warning for us, a warning we dismiss as mythology? Adding to the mystery are alignments in ancient monuments that seem tied not just to the stars, but to cycles of climate. The Mayans tracked Venus and solar cycles, which play roles in rainfall and agriculture. Egyptian temples aligned with the rising of Sirius, signaling the flooding of the Nile. These weren't just religious acts, they were survival strategies, ways of predicting and preparing for nature's chaos. If these people could harness celestial patterns to anticipate environmental changes, it suggests they knew that climate was not random, but part of larger rhythms. The question is, have we lost that knowledge? Some researchers propose that forgotten warnings may even be hidden in geological records. For example, ice cores from Greenland show abrupt spikes in temperature, sometimes rising by double digits in just a few years. Tree rings too reveal sudden droughts and strange growth patterns. The Earth itself seems to carry the scars of repeated upheaval, and when we overlay these records with timelines of human history, the connections become hauntingly clear. Civilizations do not fall by chance. They fall when the climate betrays them. What makes today's situation so unnerving is that we are more vulnerable than ever. Ancient peoples could migrate when drought struck, or rebuild after floods, but our interconnected global civilization depends on stable systems, supply chains, power grids, internet networks that can crumble under even small disruption. A prolonged drought today wouldn't just cause famine in one region, it would ripple across continents, sparking wars and economic collapse. A few meters of sea level rise could drown entire nations, displacing millions. And if history has taught us anything, it's that these changes can come faster than we expect. But here's the most chilling thought. What if climate chaos is not just a natural cycle, but something tied to deeper forces we don't yet understand? Some theories suggest that shifts in Earth's orbit, magnetic field reversals, or even cosmic events like solar flares could trigger rapid climate swings. If that's true, then the warnings from ancient cultures may not have been about human folly alone, but about forces beyond our control, forces that return again and again, rewriting the planet's surface and forcing humanity to start over. Perhaps this is why so many ancient myths emphasize humility before nature and the cosmos. They knew, better than we do now, that the Earth is not a steady platform but a restless, unpredictable world. And maybe, just maybe, their greatest mistake wasn't failing to build lasting empires. It was believing that they could outlast the cycles of chaos. When we look at Earth from space, the most striking feature isn't the continents, it's the oceans. They cover more than 70% of the planet's surface, yet we've explored less than 5% of them. Think about that for a moment. Most of our world is a mystery, hidden beneath waves that stretch endlessly across the horizon. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the bottom of our own oceans, and that ignorance may be hiding secrets so profound that they could rewrite not just our understanding of Earth, but our place in the universe itself. The deep ocean is a place of extremes, where sunlight never reaches and pressure is crushing enough to snap steel like twigs. Temperatures near hydrothermal vents can soar above boiling, while nearby waters remain icy cold. It is an environment so hostile that for centuries people assumed it was barren. Yet modern discoveries have revealed an astonishing truth. Life thrives there in forms that defy our expectations. Giant tube worms, eyeless shrimp, bioluminescent fish that glow like living lanterns, creatures that seem ripped from science fiction exist right here on Earth, hidden in the abyss. If life can survive in such extreme conditions, what does that mean for the possibility of life elsewhere in the universe? But the mysteries of the ocean go far beyond biology. Beneath the waves lie entire landscapes more dramatic than anything on land. Mountain ranges, taller than the Rockies, canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon, and volcanoes that dwarf anything on the continents. The longest mountain chain on Earth isn't the Himalayas, it's the mid-ocean ridge, a colossal system that stretches for more than 40,000 miles across the globe. This hidden backbone of the planet is where new crust is born, where molten rock pushes up from the mantle to reshape the seafloor. It is, in many ways, the beating heart of Earth's geology. And yet, we barely understand how it works. Then there are the lost worlds rumored to lie beneath the waves. Legends of Atlantis have haunted humanity for millennia, a great civilization swallowed by the sea, leaving only stories behind. Most dismiss it as myth, yet archaeological discoveries continue to challenge our certainty. Off the coast of Japan near Yonaguni, divers have found massive stone structures that appear carved and shaped, forming terraces and steps like a sunken city. In India's Gulf of Cambay, sonar surveys revealed geometric patterns beneath the water, covering miles and resembling the layout of ancient settlements thousands of years older than the Indus Valley civilization. Could it be that rising seas after the last ice age drowned entire cultures, erasing them from history and leaving only faint whispers in myth? Even stranger are the sounds that come from the deep. In 1997, scientists recorded a powerful, low-frequency noise known as the bloop. It was so loud it could be heard across vast stretches of the Pacific Ocean. At first, many suspected it was an unknown sea creature of unimaginable size. Later studies suggested it might have been icebergs fracturing, but the mystery remains. The bloop isn't alone. Other unexplained noises, from the upsweep to the whistle, echo through the abyss, hinting at forces or beings we have yet to identify. What's calling from the darkness below? We don't know, and that uncertainty gnaws at the imagination. The ocean also hides clues to Earth's greatest disasters. Submerged craters, like the one off the Yucatan Peninsula, reveal where asteroids struck, ending the reign of dinosaurs and reshaping life itself. Underwater landslides, like the Storegga slide off Norway, show how tsunamis of unimaginable height once swept across coastlines, wiping out early settlements. These scars on the seafloor are reminders that the ocean is not just a place of mystery, it is also a place of danger, capable of unleashing destruction without warning. But perhaps the most unsettling secrets are those connected to humanity itself. There are underwater ruins that defy easy explanation, from megalithic stones off the coast of Malta to roads and walls off the Bahamas. Were they built by known ancient cultures during times of lower sea levels? Or do they point to civilizations lost in prehistory? If entire chapters of human history lie hidden beneath the waves, then our understanding of who we are and how long we've been here may be incomplete. Modern exploration has only deepened the mystery. Deep-sea submersibles have uncovered life forms that can survive without sunlight, feeding instead on chemical energy from vents in the seafloor. These ecosystems are completely independent from the sun, challenging our assumptions about what life needs to exist. If organisms can thrive in the crushing darkness of the ocean, why couldn't life exist on Europa beneath its icy crust, or on Enceladus in its subsurface seas? The ocean may hold not just Earth's secrets, but the key to finding life beyond Earth. Even governments and militaries have been drawn into the enigma of the oceans. Declassified naval reports reveal encounters with unidentified submerged objects, USOs that move faster than any known submarine and defy explanation. Some sailors speak of glowing craft darting beneath the surface, vanishing into the deep. While skeptics dismiss these accounts as misidentifications, the sheer number of reports raises questions. Could there be technologies hidden in the ocean beyond our comprehension, whether natural, human, or something else entirely? And what about the resources hidden below? Vast reserves of minerals, oil, and rare metals lie on the ocean floor, tempting corporations and nations alike. Mining the deep sea could fuel future industries, but at what cost? We barely understand the ecosystems that live there, and disturbing them could unleash consequences we can't predict. Ancient myths often spoke of the ocean as a place not to be meddled with, a realm of gods, monsters, and forbidden secrets. Perhaps those warnings were more than metaphor. What unsettles scientists most is how much remains unknown. Every expedition uncovers new species, new landscapes, new phenomena. The truth is that we're standing at the edge of a vast frontier, staring into an abyss that refuses to reveal its secrets easily. The deep ocean is Earth's final mystery, a reminder that even in the modern age of satellites and smartphones, most of our planet is still a blank map. So what lies in the darkness beneath? Lost civilizations? Creatures larger than anything we've seen? Gateways to understanding life itself? Or dangers we aren't prepared to face? The ocean doesn't give up its answers willingly, but one thing is certain: whatever secrets it holds, they will change how we see the world and ourselves forever. Beneath our feet, Earth is alive, not in the poetic sense, but in the literal one. The ground we walk on is not solid, unchanging stone. It's part of a vast system in constant motion, shifting, cracking, and reshaping itself in ways we often don't realize until disaster strikes. Earthquakes and volcanoes are among the most dramatic reminders that our planet is restless, a living engine of fire and stone that can destroy in minutes what took civilizations centuries to build. And while science has given us tools to measure and study these forces, the truth is that they remain unpredictable, often arriving without warning, as if Earth itself decides when to remind us who's in charge. Consider earthquakes. They happen when the immense plates of Earth's crust grind, collide, or slide past one another. These plates, riding on the molten mantle below, are constantly in motion, yet the pressure builds silently over years, decades, even centuries, until finally the tension snaps and the ground convulses. The result can be devastating. In 2011, Japan was struck by a magnitude 9.0 earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded. It unleashed a tsunami that swallowed entire towns and crippled the Fukushima nuclear plant. The scale of destruction was so immense that it shifted the Earth's axis and shortened the length of the day by a fraction of a second. That's the power of tectonics, a reminder that human life is fragile compared to the forces hidden beneath the crust. But earthquakes don't just destroy, they reshape. Entire landscapes can rise or sink in an instant. In Chile, the 1960 Valdivia earthquake, the largest ever measured at magnitude 9.5, raised sections of coastline by several meters while dropping others into the sea. In Alaska, the 1964 quake ripped highways apart and swallowed whole neighborhoods, while also exposing ancient forests buried beneath the ground. These shifts are not just geological curiosities, they are windows into Earth's constant remodeling, a process that has been going on since the planet formed. Volcanoes are equally awe-inspiring and terrifying. They are Earth's pressure valves releasing molten rock, ash, and gases from deep within the planet. Some eruptions are slow, oozing rivers of lava that consume everything in their path. Others are explosive, hurling ash into the stratosphere, blotting out the sun, and cooling the planet for years. The eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815 was so massive, it created the year without a summer. Crops failed worldwide, famine spread, and strange sunsets inspired works of art and literature, including Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. A single volcano changed global climate and culture, a reminder that nature's fury doesn't stop at borders. And then there's Krakatoa. In 1883, this Indonesian volcano erupted with a force so violent it was heard 3,000 miles away. The explosion destroyed 2/3 of the island and unleashed tsunamis over 100 feet tall. Tens of thousands of people were killed, and atmospheric effects lingered for years. The skies turned eerie shades of red, temperatures dropped, and the world was left in awe of Earth's destructive might. Today, Anak Krakatoa, the child of Krakatoa, still grows in the same spot, a living reminder that the cycle of destruction and rebirth never ends. Volcanoes aren't just destructive, they are creative too. The land we live on, the soil that feeds us, even the air we breathe, all have been shaped by volcanic activity. Islands like Hawaii are born from eruptions rising from the ocean, one lava flow at a time. Fertile soils, rich in minerals, are gifts of ancient eruptions, and without volcanic gases, including carbon dioxide and water vapor, Earth's atmosphere and by extension life wouldn't exist as it does today. Volcanoes in their violence are both destroyers and creators, sculpting the face of the planet over billions of years. But what makes earthquakes and volcanoes most unnerving is their unpredictability. Scientists can map fault lines, measure seismic activity, and study volcanic gases. Predicting exactly when disaster will strike remains elusive. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake, for instance, caught millions by surprise. It triggered a tsunami that killed more than 230,000 people across 14 countries. Despite advances in technology, we are still vulnerable to the sudden wrath of tectonic forces. In fact, some of the most dangerous volcanoes today, like Mount Vesuvius near Naples, sit next to densely populated areas. History has shown what happens when such giants awaken. Pompeii and Herculaneum were buried in ash and pumice in 79 CE, frozen in time by the fury of Vesuvius. The haunting plaster casts of victims serve as chilling reminders that nature does not negotiate. And yet, throughout history, humans have settled in the shadow of volcanoes and along fault lines. Why? Because where there is danger, there is also abundance. Volcanic soils are fertile, coastlines near tectonic boundaries teem with life, and geothermal energy offers power. It's a trade-off humanity has always made, living close to destruction for the promise of prosperity. Perhaps it is arrogance, or perhaps it is necessity, but either way, it keeps us tethered to the restless heart of Earth. The myths of ancient cultures reflect this uneasy relationship. The Greeks believed Hephaestus, the god of fire, worked his forge beneath Mount Etna, explaining its eruptions as sparks from his hammer. The Polynesians saw volcanoes as the realm of Pele, a goddess both feared and revered. In Japan, earthquakes were once thought to be caused by a giant catfish threshing beneath the islands. These myths may sound quaint today, but they reflect a profound truth. People have always sensed that Earth itself is alive, and its moods can shift without warning. What's even more unsettling is the possibility that these forces could one day trigger a global catastrophe. Supervolcanoes, like the one beneath Yellowstone in the United States, are ticking time bombs. If it were to erupt, the blast could blanket entire continents in ash, plunge the world into volcanic winter, and devastate global agriculture. Such eruptions have happened before. The Toba supereruption about 74,000 years ago nearly drove humanity to extinction. Genetic evidence suggests the human population may have dwindled to just a few thousand individuals at the time. If it happened once, it can happen again. Earthquakes too could unleash destruction on a scale we can barely comprehend. A major quake along the San Andreas Fault, for example, could devastate California, one of the world's largest economies. A rupture along the Cascadia subduction zone could trigger a tsunami that would obliterate coastal cities from Canada to northern California. These aren't wild hypotheticals. They are scenarios scientists know are inevitable. The only question is when, and maybe that's the most chilling part. For all our technology, we remain powerless to stop these forces. We can monitor, prepare, and rebuild, but we cannot control. Earthquakes and volcanoes remind us that we live on a planet that is not a static stage, but an evolving, unpredictable system. Beneath every city, beneath every step we take, the Earth is shifting, grinding and plotting its next move. What does this mean for the future? It means that our civilization, as advanced as it is still at the mercy of the planet's rhythms. We may build skyscrapers, satellites and global networks, but a single eruption or quake can topple it all. Perhaps that's why ancient people wove these forces into their myths, not to explain them away, but to remind themselves of humility, because in the end, no matter how advanced we become, we are guests on this restless planet, and the ground beneath us will never truly be still. If you were to walk through Earth's history like flipping through the pages of a book, you would notice something disturbing. Life doesn't flow in a smooth, unbroken line. It's punctuated by silence, by sudden voids where entire species vanish from the record. These are Earth's mass extinctions, events so devastating that they reshaped the course of evolution, wiping out the dominant creatures of one age and clearing the way for new ones. To study them is to confront an uncomfortable truth. Extinction is not the exception on Earth. It is the rule. The most famous of these events is the one that ended the reign of the dinosaurs. 66 million years ago, a rock from space, about 6 miles wide, slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. The impact was apocalyptic. A blinding fireball incinerated everything for miles, shockwaves rippled across the planet, and tsunamis higher than skyscrapers swept coastlines. Dust and sulfur blasted into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight for years and collapsing food chains. When the skies finally cleared, 3/4 of all species were gone. The mighty dinosaurs, who had ruled for over 160 million years, were reduced to bones in the dirt, leaving mammals, small, overlooked, fragile, to rise in their place. Without that impact, humanity might never have existed. But the dinosaurs' demise is only one chapter in a much darker story. Earth has endured at least 5 major mass extinctions, each rewriting the rules of survival. The deadliest of all was the Permian-Triassic extinction, 252 million years ago, often called the Great Dying. It annihilated more than 90% of marine species and 70% of land vertebrates. Imagine nearly everything around you: forests, oceans, creatures reduced to ash. The cause is still debated. Some point to massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia, which released enough carbon dioxide to choke the atmosphere and poison the seas. Others suggest a cascade of events: methane release, acid rain, even a cosmic trigger. Whatever the cause, life was brought to the brink, and it took millions of years for Earth to recover. Then there was the Ordovician Silurian extinction, about 440 million years ago, when a sudden ice age froze the planet and lowered sea levels, destroying vast marine habitats. The Devonian extinction 30-75 million years ago may have been driven by toxic algal blooms or asteroid impacts, wiping out much of Earth's early fish life. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction 2,000 million years ago opened the door for the dinosaurs to dominate, but at the cost of many reptile lineages. Each event was like hitting a reset button on evolution, wiping the slate clean and forcing life to adapt or die. What's chilling is that extinction doesn't always come from the sky or from volcanoes. Sometimes it builds slowly, like a tightening noose. During the ice ages, countless species simply couldn't keep up with the changing climate. Mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, all giants of the last great glaciation disappeared as their habitats shrank, and humans spread across the globe. Some scientists argue that overhunting by our ancestors helped push these creatures into oblivion, while others believe climate was the real killer. The truth may be a combination of both, a reminder that extinction can be sudden or gradual, cosmic or human-made. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Earth's past extinctions may not just be random disasters. Some researchers see patterns, as if mass extinctions follow cycles tied to deeper cosmic forces. Studies of the fossil record suggest a possible 26 to 30 million year rhythm, perhaps linked to the solar system's movement through the galaxy, disturbing distant comets and sending them hurtling toward Earth. Others propose that magnetic field reversals, cosmic radiation, or even hidden geological cycles may play a role. If these patterns are real, it means mass extinctions are not just accidents, they are inevitabilities, written into the fabric of Earth's existence. Ancient myths may even preserve echoes of these cataclysms. Stories of fire raining from the sky, floods that swept the world, or darkness lasting for years may sound like allegories, but they align disturbingly well with the effects of asteroid impacts or supervolcanic eruptions. Were our ancestors passing down memories of disasters, encoding them as myths so future generations would not forget? If so, how much of what we dismiss as legend might actually be history, buried under layers of time? And then there is the haunting question: are we living through the beginning of a sixth extinction? Scientists warn that species are vanishing today at rates far beyond normal background levels. Rainforests are being cut down, oceans are warming and acidifying, and habitats are collapsing. Amphibians, insects, birds, creatures that once filled the air with sound are disappearing. Some call this the Anthropocene extinction, driven not by volcanoes or asteroids, but by us. If true, then humanity has become the cosmic catastrophe this time, the asteroid that reshapes the world. The irony is staggering. Our survival depends on the diversity of life, on pollinators, on stable ecosystems, on the delicate balance of nature, and yet our actions are dismantling that balance piece by piece. What future are we creating when we silence the songs of birds, bleach coral reefs, and drive species to extinction faster than evolution can replace them? We may think we are masters of Earth, but history shows that no species, no matter how powerful, is immune to collapse. Some thinkers argue that extinctions are not just destructive, they are creative. Each mass extinction cleared space for new life to emerge. Without the Great Dying, dinosaurs might never have risen. Without the asteroid, mammals might never have thrived. Could it be that extinctions, brutal as they are part of Earth's design, a way of pushing evolution forward? If so, then perhaps even humanity's downfall would pave the way for something new, something unimaginable. It's a sobering thought that in the grand scale of Earth's history, we might be just another chapter destined to be replaced. But maybe the greatest mystery isn't why extinctions happen, it's why life always comes back. No matter how severe the devastation, Earth has never remained barren for long. After the Great Dying, new ecosystems flourished. After the asteroid, mammals rose to dominance. Life is resilient, tenacious, and endlessly inventive, perhaps that's the real message of Earth's dark past. Destruction is temporary, but renewal is inevitable. Still, for us, the stakes couldn't be higher. Unlike past species, we can see the warning signs. We know that extinctions happen, that Earth resets itself in violent ways. The question is whether we will adapt, mitigate, and survive, or whether we will join the countless creatures already lost to time. If the sixth extinction is truly underway, then we are living at a turning point in history, one that future civilizations, if they exist, will look back on as the moment humanity sealed its fate. When we look back across Earth's long and turbulent history, one truth becomes undeniable. No force has ever reshaped the planet as quickly as we are doing right now. Asteroids, supervolcanoes, and shifting climates have brought devastation before, but humanity's impact is different. It is not a single cataclysm, but a constant pressure, building day by day, altering the air, the oceans, and even the very crust of the Earth. In just a few centuries, a blink compared to the planet's age, we have transformed landscapes, exterminated species, and changed the chemistry of the atmosphere. The question is not whether we are leaving a mark, but whether we are creating a new age, an age of uncertainty where the greatest threat to Earth's stability comes from us. Consider the atmosphere, the fragile veil that makes life possible. For millions of years, it has balanced oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen in ratios that allowed ecosystems to flourish. Yet since the Industrial Revolution, we've flooded it with greenhouse gases, raising concentrations of carbon dioxide to levels not seen in millions of years. This invisible change has already begun to tip the climate, melting glaciers, raising sea levels, and fueling extreme weather. Heat waves scorch once temperate regions, hurricanes grow more destructive, and wildfires rage with a ferocity that defies control. Scientists warn that if trends continue, we may push Earth into conditions unseen since the age of the dinosaurs, a world hotter, stormier, and far less forgiving. And then there are the oceans, which absorb much of the excess heat and carbon we produce. They are becoming warmer and more acidic, bleaching coral reefs and destabilizing marine ecosystems. Fish populations collapse under the combined strain of climate change and overfishing, threatening the food supply of billions. Vast garbage patches, composed of plastic waste, swirling gyres the size of countries, breaking down into microplastics that infiltrate the food chain. We are literally filling the seas with our refuse, altering them in ways that may take millennia to reverse. What once seemed infinite and eternal is showing cracks under our relentless pressure. The land tells a similar story. Forests, once vast and impenetrable, are shrinking at alarming rates. In the Amazon, the world's largest rainforest, trees are cut down or burned by the acre every second. This isn't just deforestation, it's dismantling one of Earth's most important climate regulators, a system that produces oxygen, captures carbon, and supports millions of species. As forests vanish, so too do the creatures that depend on them. The jaguar, the orangutan, countless birds and insects, all pushed closer to extinction by the steady march of human expansion. But perhaps the most haunting impact is the silence. Biologists warn of an ongoing sixth extinction, with species disappearing at rates hundreds of times faster than normal. Frogs that once sang in wetlands, bees that once pollinated fields, birds that once filled forests with calls, one by one they vanish, leaving gaps in ecosystems and absences in the natural symphony of life. Some estimates suggest that more than 1 million species could face extinction within the next century. For the first time in history, a single species, ours, has become the driver of a global die-off. And yet, for all the destruction, there is irony. We are victims of our own success. Agriculture allowed our numbers to grow, cities flourished, and technology gave us mastery over resources. But this mastery has created a fragile system that depends on endless growth and consumption. We mine mountains for minerals, drill the oceans for oil, and farm the land until its soils are exhausted. The very foundation of our civilization is built on exploiting Earth's limits, and those limits are closing in fast. The uncertainties ahead are staggering. Will rising seas displace hundreds of millions, turning coastal cities into modern Atlantean ruins? Will food systems collapse under the pressure of droughts and floods? Will diseases, long buried in melting permafrost, re-emerge to haunt us? The past shows us that Earth is unpredictable, prone to sudden shifts and violent upheavals. Add human interference to that mix, and the future becomes a storm of unknowns. But there's another layer to this story: humanity's potential to change course. For all our destructiveness, we are also capable of innovation and resilience. We've harnessed fire, electricity, and the atom. We've mapped genomes, explored space, and invented machines that think. The same ingenuity that drives destruction could also create solutions: renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, new technologies to heal the damage we've done. The question is whether we will act in time, or whether we will cling to habits until the Earth itself forces change upon us. What makes this moment unique is awareness. Past civilizations collapsed when droughts came, when floods struck, or when soils gave way. They may have suspected the causes, but they lacked the tools to see the big picture. We, however, can measure the gases in the atmosphere, track melting ice from satellites, and map species decline in real time. We know what's happening, and that knowledge is both a gift and a burden. To ignore it is not ignorance, it is willful blindness. Some argue that humanity has entered a new geological epoch, the Anthropocene. It is an age where humans are the dominant force shaping Earth, as impactful as ice ages or asteroid impact. Future geologists, if they exist, may find layers of plastic, concrete, and radioactive isotopes as markers of our time. Whether they see this as the dawn of human stewardship or the shadow of human hubris will depend on what we do next. But here's the unsettling truth: Earth doesn't need us. Life has survived cataclysms far worse than anything we can create. It will adapt, evolve, and recover, even if it takes millions of years. What's at stake is not the planet's survival, it's ours. Will we find a way to live in balance, or will we become just another fossilized reminder of a species that burned too brightly, too fast? History suggests that civilizations often ignore warnings until it's too late. The Akkadians ignored drought, the Mayans ignored deforestation, the Easter Islanders ignored their dwindling trees. Each collapse was localized, tragic but confined. This time, however, the collapse could be global. The web we've spun is too interconnected, too fragile. A failure in one system, food, energy, climate, could ripple across the world, bringing everything down together. And yet perhaps it is this very awareness of our fragility that gives us a chance. For the first time, a species has the ability to foresee extinction and to act against it. The real question is not whether we can save ourselves, it's whether we will choose to, because every day we delay, the window narrows and Earth's uncertain future becomes less uncertain and more inevitable. As we step back from the layers of Earth's story, from its violent birth to the fragile systems that now hold us, we are left with a sobering realization: the ground beneath our feet is not permanent, the climate we rely on is not guaranteed, and the survival of our species is far from secure. Earth has always been a restless, unpredictable planet, sculpted by fire, ice, water, and time. But the difference now is clear. We are no longer just passengers in this journey. We have become active participants, perhaps even the greatest force shaping the future. That role carries a weight unlike any other, because the choices we make will ripple far beyond our lifetimes. For millions of years, Earth endured meteor impacts, magnetic reversals, and mass extinctions. It withstood chaos, and each time, life returned. That resilience is both reassuring and haunting. Reassuring because it means Earth will persist, no matter how violent the changes ahead. Haunting because it reminds us that humanity is not guaranteed a place in the next chapter. The fossils of forgotten species are silent warnings. Survival is never promised. Civilizations rise, they flourish, and they fall, often because they ignore the very signs that now stare us in the face. The planet whispers its warnings in melting ice caps, in storms that grow louder each year, in forests that fall silent as species disappear. These signals are not distant, they are immediate, pressing, undeniable. And yet history shows how easy it is to become numb, to dismiss the extraordinary as ordinary, until the moment when it can no longer be ignored. That is the danger we face now. Not just destruction from without, but apathy from within. Still, the story does not have to end in tragedy. Humanity has something no other species has possessed before: the ability to see the future unfolding, to imagine consequences, and to act before the final collapse. We are builders, dreamers, and innovators. We have crossed oceans, split atoms, and walked on the moon. If we can achieve all of that, then surely we can find a way to live in balance with the planet that gave us everything. The real battle is not with Earth. It is with ourselves, with our greed, our short-sightedness, and our tendency to value convenience over survival. So perhaps the final question is this: will future generations look back on us as the architects of our downfall, or as the ones who stood at the edge of collapse and chose another path? The answer lies in the full choices we make each day, in the technologies we embrace, in the leaders we follow, and in the value we place on a world that, despite its power and mystery, has sheltered us so generously. Because in the end, Earth does not need saving, we do. The planet will move on, with or without us, reshaping itself as it always has. The real mystery is whether we will be written into its future, or whether our chapter will close with the same silence that has claimed countless species before. The choice, hauntingly and beautifully, is still ours to make.